into this game. This is the winner's final, kind of.
It is the winner's final.
I'll call it the winner's
It is not the grand finals.
No. But neither of these players yet have lost in this tournament. They've won all of their series so far, and spawning up on the top right as the orange Zerg playing for Complexity Gaming, he is Mooskills.
And spawning at the bottom left, coming up through the winner's bracket, untouched so far, are Red Protoss Bales. Playing for Flipside, correct? Tactics.
Yep.
Mooskills playing for, it says right there, Complexity.
Complexity, are they mostly like, I feel like they're mostly kind of like an academy team now? Do they have like a straight on like full-time pro gamer on for StarCraft 2 anymore or no?
I don't know. I don't think they have any like salaried players. I think that, I mean, they have sponsors. Both of them have sponsors. Flipside, I know, for a long time has. That might be something that they just do.
I think Flipside is a little more up and coming than Complexity.
Right, Complexity's been around a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any pro StarCraft players, though. They might send people to tournaments or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's kind of what Mooskills is. He is he's a college student, and so it's kind of the, if he needs to go to a tournament,
oh, buddy.
But
we got a sketchy pylon.
And we've got a sketchy hatchery, too.
Yeah.
Has been seen. Mooskills hasn't seen it, but he's a little bit lucky with the Gateway Expand. I mean, it doesn't get to do as much as a Forge Expand against a proxy hatchery like this is, I think, the best case scenario, because then you just lay down one cannon and you say, I don't really care what your proxy hatchery is
whether or
doing.
not you finish it.
But in this case, Bales has to decide, a single Zealot will not kill this in time. It looks like he's probably just going to let it go, because at this point in time he probably needed to send down probes to actually stop this hatchery from finishing, but then he also has to lose mining time if he does that.
He could pull all the boys with the Zealot, and he would kill it just as it finishes, but not worth it. What I was going to say is these two have probably played each other some.
Yeah, I'm sure they met on the ladder a whole lot, and so and I think they even just kind of know each other a decent bit as well. I think they probably have played each other at, even just, meeting up at local, or not local events, because
online.
Well, online in like MLGs and Red Bulls and stuff like that. So Bale's going for just bumping out Zealot production. Not really scared of anything that'll come out of this hatchery, and it looks like Mooskills is just using this to actually just go ahead and delay the expansion of Bales, kind of forcing him into, now Bales has made a couple of gateways. He's got 3 gates now, and it's that almost kind of like primes you for, well, I guess I'll attack, right?
Right, yeah.
Although no warp gate even started yet, is a little confusing to me. I don't know. I guess he just didn't have it in time.
Yeah, he just got enough gas to, and he started it. So he rushed a couple things out, right? He rushed the extra gateways instead of an expansion.
And I guess the mothership core instead of warp gate anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and he popped a sentry. Yeah. Which makes sense, because it's like with any crazy aggression, you want that sentry. If he were to follow that up and be like, hey, by the way, I went straight to roach tech, something like that. You come with 6 roaches.
And even the Zergling. Zergling flood, if you will, So I think it's all quite reasonable. I'm sure all these players I'm sure all the GM Protosses have seen a proxy hatch before, and they know the varieties that can come from it. Maybe not at a cat's level knowledge, but pretty well at least.
Right.
So Mooskill's going for a pretty quick 3 hatcheries after dropping down his speed, dropping his speed, and then also kind of slowing down his gas production, because now he just wants to macro up with the drones. He knows that, how did he even get a scout in?
He used the larva from that hatchery. He had 2 left, and he started the Zerglings. He's looking for the scout, of course. And Bales is able to deny that, but I think he was also just trying to get the cocoon. He started them just as the creep was rescinding.
Yep.
And I think he was hoping that they would be in the way of a perfect Nexus placement.
Sure. Well, and I mean, you say he didn't really get a scout, but Mooskills saw a robo. He saw 3 sentries, and so he knows where the gas is going.
Right.
on all of this.
Which is absolutely, it's very cool for him. It would have been cool to peek into the main, but you're right, with that Robo on the low ground, there's not a lot else Bales can be doing and playing well.
Yeah,
in that, you know, he's not going to have a Stargate too.
No.
There is a fun little fact I'd like to insert here. He had his sentry trying to kill the larva, and he had it like zapping it for like, I don't know, 6 or 7 seconds, and it did 1 damage to it. Because the larva's got 10 armor.
They are indestructible, man.
And the sentry is probably the weakest combat unit of all the Protoss forces too.
The probe just barely loses.
I think, what is it? There's isn't it Tempest? Their DPS is actually the same as sentries. I think that might be true against massive units.
No, I don't know. That might be true.
I remember somebody saying that when they removed the because the Tempest is no longer going to have damage versus massive air or something.
Oh, was that in the patch?
Yeah, I guess. Or coming out the Swarm Host patch.
Okay. I was gonna say.
So now they were like, welcome to the War of the Worlds PvP again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the Tempest, as many people know, the only reason that PvPs, which for a long time in Wings of Liberty, it was like, who can make more Colossus? And then drop a sick Vortex with their mothership. Like, it's this big, ugly War of the Worlds fight. So some cute little play from Bales here. This isn't great, right? It forces some extra links. And he's got the recall to come back safely, but it's also forcing out force fields for not really a ton of link kills. So I'd like to see him just recall.
However, this is a little bit of a play on making Moose scared. As we saw, he ran the Zerglings down, kind of behind the army. Is there a proxy pylon? No. He hasn't seen any probes. I mean, Moose he doesn't know for sure that there's absolutely no proxy pylon, but as it is, Bales, we as the observer can see, he's definitely not committing to this in any way. He's just sitting here, he's saying...
He's just trying to make Moose think he is, yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of means... It's kind of like the Zerg... Sometimes like the Zerg run-by counterattack, or rather almost like stopping a run-by counterattack a little bit, or, I don't know. It's all...
How to make sentences.
Real hard. But there are actually so many sentries.
Yeah, so we're going to see
quite a number of immortals.
A good old... It's not quite parting, right, because it would have happened about 2 minutes ago, but we're seeing the Choo-Choo-Ka-Choo, the sentry train, rolling on over. He's got the Warp Prism as backup. That's much stronger than dropping pylons along the way, because the only thing that's going to deflect it in normal situations are Queens, but we actually have some really early Hydras out of Moose here, which is really good at repelling this on one hand. But you still need to take good fights. It's still better to bait out some of those force fields, but Bales has no shortage of force fields.
Yeah, and I think you saying that that Moose is quite the ladder hero, I think it actually prepares him for this kind of attack.
Right.
Because Immortal Sentry is, especially when you're laddering on a barcode. And
Moose is doing a really good job there to target down the first Immortal. The other two are down to just health. Very cool. And he's doing a really good job of taking wide angles. So we can see, even with as many sentries and force fields as Bales had there, Moose was able to exhaust him fairly quickly and get a good number of sentry kills and that one immortal kill, which are really pivotal. Shuts down this aggression. Pretty standard follow-up out of Bales to go into... Colossus tech. It'll be interesting to see how Moose kills. He might just try to knock down the front door, but I'm sort of thinking he's going to tech behind this.
I actually, to be honest, I'm looking at this. This is not looking promising whatsoever. I mean, yes, the force field's holding, but the gateways no longer have shields. That pylon's going to go down. He's going to lose his other immortal here. This is truly the swarm versus about 6 units.
Right? Yeah. The heavy link count ended up being very helpful in that any damage immortals do to links, right, is wasted damage they could have been doing against Hydras or Queens. So that actually helped him defend that push really well. The force fields were good, and he did a good job of partitioning off the army, but at the end of the day, Moose handled that really calmly.
Yeah, that was... I had actually made a comment to Nivek earlier, stating that I see Moose against Protoss is actually fairly strong. And so, once again, my BattleNet 2.0 has shown its great strength and connectivity reliability. So I had mentioned a comment that I felt that Moose Skills was very, very strong against Protoss, mainly because he did the cheeky thing of the expensive hatch, which initially I wasn't totally down with, because that's an expensive investment for Zerg when you're still trying to get up your early economy. But it did delay the Protoss, so in a sense it was worth the 300 minerals to throw that hatch down. But at the end, it just the sentry push was not enough. He had to retreat, and he lost a few more sentries due to some Zerglings, some Speedlings catching up to it, and he was not able to sort of replenish that army quick enough to handle that massive Hydra ball that just
well, the big thing is Moose Skills prepared really well for it, in that if Bales is able to take that fight in a different place where he can be more conservative with his force fields, drop fewer, right? Because he had to drop 7 force fields right at the beginning of that fight in order to take a decent fight. If he's able to get into a situation where he forces only incredible fights for himself, that fight could have gone differently. But yeah, you're right. I mean, good early game decisions to force something that he would like to see, and then he's able to respond to what he tried to force. So.
Yeah, and we saw a couple of games yesterday, and you probably will remember the names quicker than I will. But it was another PVZ where the Protoss player had significantly lower army supply, but was able to hold against a superior Zerg force just due to the right composition and some really good in-game decisions. And I think that what we're going to need here is we're going to need Bales to come back with a similar sort of like rocky moment to tie the series up here.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was Playa and Krillmon yesterday.
Yes.
To play to that. That's what got Krillmon into the losers finals today. And certainly, right, if you're a Bales fan at home, then you don't want the game to go exactly like the Playa Krillmon game. But I see what you're saying in that he'd like to try to get into a situation more like that, where he's got a little bit more stable. That's certainly a push that he needed to do significant damage, right? If you're not killing a third or a lot of drones or taking a great fight against the army, if you're not pushing into the natural or thinking about it at the end of that push,
absolutely,
then you're not feeling great about it.
Yeah, and he committed like usually, I'll use the Terran example, is where you usually will split your army. You'll have a drop here and then a main force attacking somewhere else.
Sure.
He took his entire forces into that battle, and then he threw down a lot of force fields, but wasn't able to get the damage for it. So, he needs to try to avoid situations like that. Like maybe leave 1 or 2 extra sentries at home with full energy to maybe help with the eventual counterattack. But we'll see what his choices are this game. Anyway, I think you guys need to do some introductions here, though.
Very true. We are into this game. DJ Spectre, take it away.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with the current leader here. We've got our orange Zerg in the lower left-hand corner, Moose Skills.
And spawning at the top right, down 1 game to Moose Skills, our blue Protoss Bales. So yeah, we'll see. I think Moose Skills certainly, right, he did some stuff in the sort of different in this matchup, and usually it's the Protoss sort of setting the tone. But in that last game, right, he's able to do something that's a little uncomfortable for most Protosses, right? It's the sort of thing, it's like when a Zerg gets their expansions cannoned, in that you have to respond appropriately there, right? So Moose Skills didn't do anything too crazy, but that can get as out of hand, right? Having a hatchery inside your natural or main, where it can go as far as they create queens, they build lings, and then eventually roaches there. Maybe they build drones into spines. So it's a tough situation to be in, and it's kind of cool to see a Zerg setting the tone of the match instead of the Protoss. So we'll see what Bales does in response. I think it'll be interesting to see his choices. We've seen standard play so far out of Moose Skills, and this is a really cute abuse of this map. You could drop a pylon and then cannons behind your little wall here.
And it looks like that's what he's going to do, because if you look, he did go Forge first for this. So he is looking for something very cute, interesting, etc. Granted, the Forge is going to be part of this eventual wall that I hope that he builds here at his natural. But still, you're right. There's a cannon. There are 2 pylons. There's a second cannon. And this is him trying to basically take the advantage that Moose Skills took earlier. He's essentially cheesing him, for lack of any other description. But yeah, this is all the only response he can do. He pulls his probes to try to handle this forward cannon, but in the end, that cannon in the back is going to force them away. He is advancing with this cannon rush, and I hate to say it, but this is one of these things where this is a very good cannon rush, and as any player, it doesn't matter what race you're playing, you see cannons near where you need to be building other things, it doesn't make you feel comfortable, ever. And so I think that Moose Kills is in a very uncomfortable position at the moment.
Yeah, and so he's responded with now 3 spines. And I assume that he'll eventually... I mean, this is a really tough situation. I'd actually like to see him cancel it and take one of the other thirds. Of course, there's not much to keep him from getting cannoned at one of those. But yeah, GG has called a really, really well-prepared cannon rush there for a specific map by Bales there. And Moose Kills just doesn't think he's going to be able to trade effectively enough to get back in that game.
And I think I will just quote Bales upon, I think his Twitter upon reaching WCS Challenger, or qualifying for WCS Challenger, and it was, "Hey Bales, what are you doing?" Because I'm pretty sure he's done that before. That was like Canon Micro, like the canceling and the proper placement of all the other, like that. I don't know, it's kind of beautiful, honestly. Like it kills my little Zerg heart, right? But
yeah, I mean, the mechanic of being able to cancel those buildings and then start them right away, right? He's only losing, he spends like 80 minerals on anything that he canceled. Nothing got killed. Yep. He did a great job there. He maneuvered his probe really well, and he even took the due diligence to bring a second probe in once he had, a sufficient count at home to be able to manage that. I've seen some players go into then building gateways right in your face too.
Oh yeah.
It can get to wall off cannons with gates, and then you proxy zealots.
It's rude.
It's pretty darn rude, but it can be pretty fun to watch. But yeah, Bales playing really solidly there, and Moose Kills just doing a little too little, a little too late for how he meant to respond to that. Maybe he needed spines earlier, but he had a late.
Did he just need to pull drones earlier against the little 2 pylon 1 cannon wall? I feel like that's all you can do.
Yeah, so conventionally what you want to do, right, is you want to keep a drone from preventing that second pylon from going down. So if you leave your drone right there, then you're able to pull 3 or 4 drones. In that case, as late as it was, you probably want to pull at least 4 drones down to kill that first cannon, right? You don't want him to get trapped in there by another pylon, but you need 1 drone preventing that wall from being finished. It's the same as behind a mineral line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
And I think his overlord actually scouted that pylon going down, and so he just, in my mind, he did not react soon enough. Was the thing. Like, I don't care even if you send 2 drones down there, like you said, put 1 drone in the right position, but you got to send something down there to deal with either the probe or the pylon. And he had more than enough time because the overlord had spotted it. I feel it was just a little slower on the reaction time, personally.
Could be. Could be a little bit of underestimating. It's just
right. It's one of those situations where if he pulls too many drones too soon, then Bales just cancels, and he's like, "Hey, guess what? I won anyway." So I mean, it's all about that. There are of course different choices he could have made. He could have tried to drop other hatcheries, something like that. In order, I mean, you could drop cannons at those too, right? But his pool finishes, and he has more tech to deal with it in different options. So
anyway, we have come to
we've come to our next game, and we're still talking about the last one.
And spawning in on Deadwing, managed to scrape it back with the tricky cannon rush last game. We have our player from Flipside Tactics. He is Bales.
Spawning in the lower right corner, we have our guy who, if I had been him, I definitely would have had some profanity said on my end of that screen. It's currently tied 1-1. It's from Complexity. It's our Orange Zerg Moose Kills.
And
no cheeky probes out yet from.
But by golly,
Kev,
that seems like a fairly early gas.
Yeah.
What do we expect to see out of a gas like that?
That's I mean, look, should be just 14-14. So 14 gas, 14 spawning pool. I think it was 14 gas. May have been like 12. I guess 12 gas, 13 spawning pool. I suppose that's just. I guess it's just faster Zergling.
It's got to be early speedlings, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the sort of early speedlings that like hit before the opportunity for Bales to have a wall. I feel. I mean, maybe he'll just catch him off guard with it.
Unless we've seen Bales, he usually drops his first gateway, right? His gateway and core in the main.
Sure.
And here we've seen him Nexus first, right? And maybe Moose Gill's playing off the map. He's like, it's a 4-player spawn map. He's probably going to Nexus first because that's just so darn good for Protosses on Deadwing, right? So he anticipates that. He's like, if I can, you know, at least eliminate one of the options with his Overlord, and in fact, he's going to first scout him.
Yep.
Then those speedlings are going to come at a really awkward time.
Yeah, very true.
I've lost to this, or something like it.
Yeah.
A dozen times at least.
I don't think I've actually ever tried this sort of.
Kevin doesn't believe that
I don't believe in
Zergs can be cheeky.
Zerg cheese. Just
But
doesn't
in
work.
fact, they can, and Moose Gills is going to show us that. So this is
Very
a lot,
true.
you know. Is Bales, he's not even in probe scouting, or is he? Yep, he probe
Yeah.
scouted and he found him first also.
He saw it, so I think
So he should be able to prepare for it, but this, you know, even at this stage, it's going to be tough.
it'll still put a lot of pressure on his buildings too. He'll certainly kill a pylon, I'm sure, which can then really, you know, lead to needing Bales needing to do a lot of extra building placement to continue to keep that wall in. But at the same time, it's not like it's certainly not an all-in. It's a little bit cheeky, I guess, but it's the sort of thing that Moose Skills knows that he probably wouldn't end the game with this anyway.
Right. But he doesn't need to. This is an awkward situation, right, where you're at this stage of tech as a Protoss in that he had to send that Zealot out, right? So then he has no wall because he didn't want to keep his probe there.
Yeah.
So it puts a lot of pressure on the wall and a lot of pressure on tech choices, right? He wants to get the Mothership core out as soon as he can. But he needs to either, right, so he's trying to finish the wall. He needs to hold the wall, too. And those Lings just sneaking by, they get the surround on the Zealot. Without +1, Zealots really aren't that great against Lings. If there's a surround.
I was like, Sam.
If it's one Ling at a time, they're going to do pretty darn well.
And so
Zealot's OP.
I think
he does manage to finish the wall, but it's about to be broken down again with this pylon dropping. He does throw down other buildings, so this is kind of the way you got to respond as Protoss when your wall's getting wrecked. But
right, he's got no cannon, though. This is looking really scary for Bales. Doesn't even get the cancel on that gateway. He doesn't have more Zealots in the way, so if he's able to finish this sentry and force field the ramp in time, which he doesn't, he can feel okay about this situation. He can certainly play this out if he's able to save one of his bases. It's not like Moose Gills has such a crazy economy behind this that he's totally out of the game, but he's definitely behind already.
I'm not sure he can do it. There's a whole stream of orange flooding across the center of the screen where just Zerglings, and unfortunately the Cyber Core is going down. The one cannon that's still, the second attempt at the first cannon drops. I mean, he's got Photon Overcharge, but I mean, can Photon Overcharge kill 40 Lings? 30 Lings? What's he got? Let's see here, units. 34 Lings. I don't know.
Yeah, so what he can do here is he can't wall off at the top of his ramp right now. He can do three pylons or something like that, try to cannon behind it, but his forge is gone.
Yep, his forge was up in the main wall off, as well as the Cybernetics core, so now all he can do is make...
yeah, so he should, at this point in the game, he should complain about balance. If he were a Terran, he would lift his buildings. He is not, and he is in a tough situation there. The best worker micro in the world doesn't save you in that situation. So he managed his wall really well there. That's a really difficult thing to do as a Protoss, right? Where you're looking at individual little hexes that you've got to block. But very cool build out of Moose Skills there. Responding.
That was very well done.
No macro gams out of these two so far.
Oh. They're like, this thing is not allowed to go past 8 minutes. Like, no, 0. If it hits 10 minutes, we're both gonna like seppuku. So.
Yeah, well, we just learned that HOT stands for Heart at the Stomp.